Hey, welcome to Romance Happy Hour. I'm Dylann Crush, and I am here tonight, as always, with Dawn Luedecke, my co-hostess. Hey, Dawn, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Yeah. It's been a crazy week for everybody,
It
I
has
think.
been a crazy week, and here in Minnesota, it's like I don't know, it's like April weather. It's so weird.
What?
So
It's like
yeah,
going back and forth between April weather and dumping snow, Dylan. I still have snow here. So it's not Minnesota
yeah.
right now as much as it's Montana snowda.
I don't know. All the snow is pretty much melted, and it's supposed to be like 30 tomorrow, and then next week we might have a day where we get up to 60. It's just weird.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of jealous. I'm really jealous. Do you have any
yeah.
plants like popping up like, "Hey, is it spring yet?"
Um, no, but there were. I mean, a couple days ago there were like all these birds out and everything, and I'm like, no, it's too soon. Go back. Um, and so yeah, it's just been weird. My kids' allergies have started acting up, and it's
Sweet.
like way too soon for any of that. So, but
Well,
anyways,
we still got head colds going on, so it's
yeah,
not allergies at all. It's just like, "Ugh,
yep.
I'm sick. Got that snow. I'm sick. It's cold."
I
That's
know,
crazy.
vast, changes in temperatures will do that to you.
I'm pretty sure we're on like the same longitude though. So
Maybe. I don't know.
almost pretty close.
That is above my pay grade, the longitude and latitude. Yeah. I can do east, west, north, and south if you're giving me directions, but
Yeah.
the other stuff, no. But we're here tonight with, Cathy Yardley and Claudia Shelton. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to hear from both of you tonight. And before we get to that, Dawn, have you been doing any writing?
Ugh. I've been real estating the hell out of this week, but I have not gotten a word written and it's making me like super anxious and stressed. In fact, I was mean yesterday. I'm gonna admit my husband's like, you were a little grumpy yesterday, and he's grumpy today, so we called it even.
There you go.
So, yeah.
I thought you were
So,
backing away slowly from all of that so you'd have more time to write.
until I didn't, and then now
Okay.
it's just it's like an avalanche, and
Uh-huh.
it's stressing me out. So,
Okay.
yes. But I am
Alright.
still working on How to Win a Husband in 10 Ways, which is a new historical that I
Okay.
am writing for my agent. So, I'm very excited. I have been working on that. I did get some words in last week, so yeah,
All right.
that's where I'm
Well,
at.
good.
Oh my gosh, Deanna, no, the other Deanna is here. We
2
haven't seen her
Deannas.
in for yeah, but Deanna, we haven't seen you in forever. Thank you for
Hi,
joining us
Deanna.
again.
All right.
And what about you,
So,
Dylan? Wait. What about you? What have
yes,
you been
I
working on?
you noticed I was gonna skip that part.
I
Um,
did. Yeah.
so I actually have been really well, my alter ego that is no longer a secret, had 2 releases this week. So, that's been really, really busy and fun. They're shorts, steamy shorts, and
Mm.
yeah. So 2 releases this week for that, and then I have another release that's coming up March 15th under my Eve London pen name, and, so, yeah, Dylan is kind of resting,
Yeah.
with some full-length books to come later on this year, but Eve has been really, really, really busy. So,
Short are fun though. Like you said, fun. It's like fun to write those because it's like snappy and quick and
yes,
yeah.
I
You get right to
really
the
enjoy.
steamy.
Yes, I feel like it's like I don't know. I mean, my tagline for Eve London is, the perfect length to leave you completely satisfied. Um, but they're like you just skip all the parts that you don't really need. It's like hero, heroine, meet, boom, fall in love, everything, it's a much more accelerated pathway. So I enjoy it.
That
But
actually pops a question in my mind that's early on in the show, I'm aware. But for everybody, like, have you written or not written, but have you read scenes, because we're all readers, where you just skipped over things? And what was it? Was it steamy
okay.
or was it like,
Okay. Dawn, can we let our guests introduce themselves first before you start plying them with questions?
fine, I'll write it down. I'll write
Okay.
it down.
Don't
Okay.
forget. That's a good question. Seriously, I mean, let them say their names first before we're just
I
like put them on
know.
the spot.
Dang it. I'm sorry. I'm
All right,
sorry.
that's all right. She's anxious. She's very eager to get to the meat of the conversation tonight. It looks like.
I'm good at my job.
That's right. All right. Claudia, Cathy, welcome. Claudia, why don't you go first? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you write, and if you want to share where you're joining us from, and whether you have sun or snow.
Well, I've kind of got the same kind of weather that you've got right now. I'm about an hour west of St. Louis, out in over the Missouri River out that way. But we had 70 degrees yesterday. It was so warm, and the birds are making their nests and frolicking around, and it's really strange weather. But it'll cool back off before it's done. But I don't think it's going to get our winter again. We got past that. But I'm Claudia Shelton, and I write different things. I write romantic suspense, I write military romance, and I write contemporary romance. And sometimes it all kind of goes together. Um, I was just telling them that I had a couple of books that I had gotten rights back on, and they have new covers. I don't even have copies of them yet. And this one is just a romantic suspense one that it's new cover. A lot of people are really saying they like the new cover. And then this one comes out in March. So they're all here, they're on order, but sometimes it takes a little while. I can't tell which way I'm going here, but hey. So I've been busy doing that besides, as you say, putting words on the page for a book that's going to come out later this summer, at least one this year. So that's kind of where I'm at. And then I'll be reading you something that comes out of one of my contemporaries in a little bit.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you here with us tonight. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, and hi, Cathy.
Hi. Well, I'm Cathy Yardley. I live in Eastern Washington State, which strangely enough is where approximately the book that I'll be reading from tonight takes place. And that book is role playing. I write contemporary, geeky, kind of dramedy rom-com and romance. I've been writing for a long time. But for the most part, everything I've written has had some kind of a geeky element to it, because that is like where I live. But now especially I'm writing more Gen X romance, or they're calling it like later in life romance. And I am loving that. I'm just like loving not having to get in the heads. And there's nothing wrong with like 20-year-old, 30-year-old protagonists. Nothing wrong. I enjoyed those years, but those aren't my years now. And I really am enjoying writing older protagonists. It's like so great. So looking forward to reading about that.
Nice.
Wait a minute.
We are looking forward to hearing it.
I'm going to say, like, did you just say those aren't your years and that you look young? Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
Yes, I am.
You look like you're 20. Oh my God. You are stunning.
Bless you.
You look like you're in your 20s. I love it. Oh my gosh. Love it.
Yeah, you definitely do not look your age.
No.
Very important. We need to know exactly what kind of skincare routine.
Yes.
If you want to talk offline, actually, it's a thing. But
okay, let's do that.
Yeah, you stick around after, and we'll update everybody later. So, okay, Dawn, would you like to ask your question now? Feel free.
Yeah. Okay. I had to write it down because
I know. Because anyway, yes, I understand.
I'm really tired today. I'm really tired. So, yeah, when you read things, do you skip over anything? And if you do, is it a love scene or is it just like a regular part of the book, like just part of the basic plot?
Okay, who are you asking?
Everybody, even you, Dylan.
Cathy, I'll let you take that first.
For me, it depends on the author. Just like, and also kind of like my mood. I'm definitely a mood reader. So if I was like in the mood for something a little angstier, and then I kind of picked up something that's a lot steamier, like I might start compressing some of the sex scenes, where I'm just like, okay, I do get the point here, just to pick up like that hit. But on the other side, if I was in the mood for something a bit steamier and it's like insano slow burn, then it might be like blip, blip, blip.
Yeah,
But it really does depend.
I get that.
For me, if I'm reading something and I can only remember one time in my life when I was reading something and all of a sudden we were to a sex scene, and instead of it just kind of incorporating into the whole scene anyhow, they had made it a chapter. Like the story was going, oh, here's a chapter. Almost like the editor went, you need to go put some more sex in, and they went over and they dropped it in. And I was like, this doesn't pertain to anything. It's the only time I ever skipped the sex scene. But I have been known to just put a book down if I get into it and it's not working for me, because I don't get as much time. As you guys know, we're over here writing and we don't get to read as much. So if I get to a point where there's too much of something and I know it's just going to bug me the whole way through, I'll just kind of lay it aside.
Yeah. I will say both of what they said for the most part, but
Yeah.
I mean, really, I don't skip chunks. The only time I remember ever really skipping, like I won't skip like regular stuff. The only thing I might be inclined to skip would be a sex scene, and that's only if I feel like it's just, like a gratuitous sex scene where it's just okay, like I want to know like what happens with the story, because I feel like okay. But yeah, I think that's really the only time I've ever really skipped. I'm not one of those people. Oh my gosh. Like I know people who go to the end, they'll read the last line of the book first. And it's like, the thought of that gives me hives. I cannot imagine.
Oh
I have to be reading for some, like I want that payoff at the end. So yeah.
Yeah.
I normally don't skip much. How about you, Dawn?
Same. Almost exactly the same. Sometimes if it's just like, okay, like let's get on with the story, and there's just a sex scene, there's another sex scene, like let's get on with the story, then I'll skip. But yeah, like most of the time I try to get, like, I don't know, like, did you miss something? Did you miss something in the middle of the sex scene? Did they say something important? But it's never any, it's very rarely important, like dialogue. But yeah, same.
Plot twist.
Plot twist. Don't skip over the sex scene. There's a plot twist in the middle. Okay, I challenge you all.
That's a writing challenge. Your next book, you have to write a plot twist in the middle of a sex scene.
Well, I write romantic suspense a lot of times, and there are times when things are almost going to be there, and then it's like, oh no, the bad guy has done something that all of a sudden it's just not going to work. No.
Actually, with romantic suspense, you could have like one of them be like, "No, call me by my real name," and she's like, "Wait."
Yeah.
You never know. That might be something that's in line for a story that's coming up that I've already kind of plotted.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it when we're all on the same wavelength. All right. Well, let's hear some words. Claudia has graciously volunteered to read first. So, and I say that a little tongue in cheek because there was a little bit of a discussion, but you volunteered.
And just kind of pointed at me.
Right. Yes, you were voluntold to go first. That's right.
I was.
So what are you reading from tonight?
Okay, I am going to, let's see, which way am I going? I'm over here. This is, can you see? Time to Grow.
Yep.
And it is the second book in my Nature's Crossing series. And this is a series that is small town. It is seasoned, so it is people who are in their mid 30s to 40s. And then it's kind of a second chances stories. I look at second chances as not just being, oh, I used to know you, so I've come back and now it's second chance. There are so many different ways you can have second chances in life. And I love writing things like that, where you see somebody getting their second chance. So I'll give you just a little opening here. This is also got some billionaire story elements in it and I say that because he's head of the company. He's alpha. He has some opinions on things. Um, and one of the things that he's always decided, and he has a military background, but that he will never say "I love you." So that kind of sets up the whole premise of the whole story. And she is a widow, and she's just trying to save the company that her and her deceased husband started. So this is going to start with chapter one. And a couple of times I'll say, "Hey, we're going to skip a couple of pages here," and I hope I can see here well. Let me get this down here where I can see. Okay.
All right, we are going to leave you to it, and we will be back when you're done.
Okay. Well, and I may not be always looking straight at you as I'm reading, but a few things New York CEO Taylor Randolph had learned during the time he'd spent serving as an Army Ranger were how to hear the lies, see the trepidation, smell the fear. Long since out of the military, those same instincts now guided him in his position as head of T. Randolph Environmental Development, TRED for short. And the man he'd just fired had dinged every one of those tells. Taylor walked to the door of his office and braced his hands against the slide door jamb. Watching the hastily retreating back of the ex-employee charging down the hallway, he briefly glanced in the direction of his executive assistant's desk, located outside his office. "Mrs. Parker, call front door security. Tell them Chase Andrews no longer works here. Have them relieve him of his company credit card, phone, keys, and anything else he was issued when he came on board." "Should I also contact our site in Nature's Crossing?" she asked. "Yes, Jake will know what to do on that end." He turned his attention back to Chase just in time to see the angry man shoulder shove a woman out of his way. She stumbled, slamming against the wall before bumping her head. Her arm collided with the table lamp, knocking it to the floor as her briefcase fell from her fingers. The satchel landed with a thud, spewing pins, notebooks, and a pink cell phone across the carpet. Reactively, Taylor rushed to help the blonde-haired woman, trying to regain her balance. She rubbed her shoulder as she kicked her phone from beneath a chair, then grimaced with the move. Hurt? That was all he needed to make this day one perfect disaster. Darn it, she muttered in clear exasperation. "Double dang darn it." "I'm sorry, what did you say?" Taylor asked. Kneeling on both knees now, she reached under the chair, trying to grab her pins. "I said, darn it." She glanced up at him. "Got a problem with that?" "Nope, no problem." The touch of a southern accent made him inwardly smile, and her eyes, the color of melted caramel, took his breath away. He prided himself on trying to know every employee in the office, but he'd never seen this woman before. Maybe she was a new hire, or lost on her way to human resources. Moving closer, he offered his hand to a sister in standing. "Here, let me help you up. Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine. Thank you kindly." She barely glanced at his offer of assistance. "I don't need any help." In one fluid motion, she nudged back on her high heels and flexed upward. Trying to avoid contact, he stepped to the side as she tugged her suit into place. Brushing her skirt smooth, she blew out a soft sigh and lifted the corners of her mouth in a half smile. He took in the trim navy suit, cropped above the knees, showing only the business proper amount of skin, long legs that flowed into conservative heels, and what looked like blonde hair, hard to tell with the way her hair was twisted up tight, like some high fashion model. "Human Resources is down the hall." Taylor jerked his head to the left and pointed. He'd had enough disruptions to his day. "Be sure to tell them you fell after being pushed by Chase Andrews. They can help you fill out the paperwork, get you medical attention." "There's no need for that. I'm fine. Fine now, but you could wake up tomorrow with a concussion." Yeah, he knew he sounded overreactive, but he didn't like anyone getting hurt on his watch. She didn't budge. "I don't need to fill out paperwork." "Human Resources." He pointed to the left again. "Fill out the paperwork. See the nurse." "Oh, excuse me." She stooped to pick up a pen lying by his foot. Her fingers lightly brushed the side of his arm as she steadied herself when she rose, then blushed and stepped back. "Sorry." His mouth dried like sand in a high noon desert sun. The warmth of her touch lingered on his skin, shocking him with the unexpected sensation. He glanced at his forearm, then felt the heat travel. He needed this reaction like he needed to be called up on active duty again. Thankfully, he'd never been attracted to an employee, and he sure as heck didn't plan to start now. He gulped in a breath of fresh air before he focused on her face and mouth to speak, and opened his mouth to speak. She stop-signed him with the palm of her hand. Okay, okay, okay. If it makes you happy, I'll fill out paperwork. Good. He had things to do, people to see, the past to get past. He turned away. Keep a copy for yourself, too. Oh, why not? In fact, maybe there'll be 100 pages. The woman pushed wisps of her hair that had loosened in the aftermath, the altercation back in place. I'm sure the world won't mind losing a tree for the tiny bump on my head. Sass. She'd sassed him. Do you know who I am? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Why? She stared into his eyes, didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't appear intimidated in the least. Why is knowing who you are so important? Because I said so. That even sounded childish to himself. He inwardly winced at the wrinkling of his forehead as his eyebrows pinched together. The woman had turned him into a babbling idiot. Exasperating, that's what she was. Struggling to keep his reactions in check, he braced his hands on his waist. As I was saying, do you know? Behind him, his assistant gave a little laugh along with a cheerfully fake clearing of her throat. He knew full well that was supposed to mean he was overreacting. Is there something funny, Mrs. Parker? No, sir. The middle-aged woman shuffled papers on her desk. Not a thing. He turned back to the long-legged blonde who defied him. She met his gaze, confident and unapologetic. Then, as if everything was her idea, she turned and walked down the hallway toward Human Resources. Unable to drag his eyes away, he watched the way her jacket hugged her waist, the glide of the skirt skimming her hips, her slender ankles as they balanced safe and secure with every step she took until she turned the corner. With any luck, he wouldn't run into her again. We'll skip ahead here just a couple of pages now. So you see the setup that this woman has fallen. So he's getting ready for a meeting today. And I'll go over and read on this for just a moment. Thinking about his upcoming meeting with Crawford Enterprises, he wished his old college buddy Matthew Crawford was the one coming. But today's meeting would be with a company representative instead. Years ago, Matthew had mentioned his brother and in planning a business after college. Maybe that's who was coming. But for the life of him, Taylor couldn't remember the brother's name. If today worked out, though, he hoped he and Matthew would have plenty of time to hash over college times. They'd only been friends in passing, but they'd kept in touch, although he hadn't heard from him in a few years. Of course, that happened about the time his own life had become a blur. Taylor left the calming atmosphere of the conference room and headed back to his office. The image of the blonde flitted through his thoughts. Had she found her way to Human Resources? Before he left for the day, he'd make a call to see if she filled out the paperwork or if she'd simply ignored him once she turned out of sight. Anything else you need? Mrs. Parker asked. Yes, I can't believe that I can't remember the name of who's coming today. I've completely forgotten. Do you happen to remember, Mrs. Parker? She said, Riley Crawford. Now I just want to read you the first page of chapter 2. Bridget Riley Crawford walked a few steps down the hall toward Human Resources and pretended to be rummaging in the side of her briefcase. She didn't need to fill out paperwork. She wasn't hurt. Sooner or later, Taylor Randolph would go back in his office. Then she could introduce herself to his assistant. She'd already swallowed a turn of nerves when he reached out to help her up from the floor. Then he'd ask if she knew who he was. Of course she knew, but right then had not seemed like a good time to introduce herself, especially when less than a minute before she'd been kneeling on the floor in front of him, searching for pins and her composure. He was every bit as handsome as his photos on the internet, where articles declared him to be a 38-year-old mastermind in leadership. Of course, his dark brown hair was a bit longer than what she would have imagined for a businessman of his magnitude. Plus, the flash of sunburst amber in his intense hazel green eyes had been completely unexpected. And that's the opening, and that's the whole setup of the story. But you do find that there gets to be a point where they are forced to share a house in this little small town. And so you've got the forced proximity plus all of the other going on. And I just love this story. I love these people. And I love this little town that I have set up in my mind and keep writing books in.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us. That was
You're
fun.
welcome.
Yeah, I love.
And actually, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I love the mistaken, that initial mistaken identity kind of trope that the situation, that comes up when somebody doesn't have any clue who they are, and then and
Yes.
then that moment where then they figure it out.
And then
that's
you
just
assume that they're going to be somebody different, and
right.
it's quite a shock to him by the end of the second chapter.
I can imagine. Yeah, it sounds like he is not a guy that has deals with a lot of surprises.
Not a lot, but he handles it.
Well, good. What were you, Dawn?
I was gonna say actually the way she ended her reading, just kind of, and actually your conversation just now eased into the questions I wrote down, because reader or viewers, post your questions in the comments. We didn't get any questions yet.
We didn't. No, but that's okay.
But I have some.
You have time.
Yeah. So I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
And both of you actually can answer it. Tropes. So this is why it feeds into my question is,
we didn't even plan that.
I know.
Oh, I'm so
excited. Wrote it down. Yeah. How do you choose your tropes, and what are your favorite tropes?
Well, my tropes seem to, a lot of times as I start, because I'm a pantser, I'm not a plotter, not until I'm at least halfway through the book. And a lot of times as I start going, I'm like, oh, I've put in that trope again. I've put in that trope again. So I would say that I do love second chance tropes. I do like the forced proximities, and just something that's different. And like in this case, that it starts off that you've got this unusual opening where he's assuming it's a guy and it's really a lady, and all of that.
What about you, Cathy?
I plot like it's structural engineering. I'm just a fanatic. I respect pantsers. Don't get me wrong. I just know me. And that's like sheer self-defense. That's how I think. I actually teach that.
Yeah, I was going to out you later if you hadn't mentioned it, but we do get a lot of like newer writers who listen to the show or watch the show, and so Cathy has written nonfiction books on plotting, because I know they're always looking for resources. So yeah, if you do want to mention that at some point tonight, absolutely feel free. Tell us a little bit about that too. But
probably will. But it does mean that I know kind of going in what kind of tropes I like, what micro tropes I like. Personally, like I'm a huge fan of like cinnamon roll heroes. That's like tonight I'm going to be reading my cinnamon roll hero. I like Grumpy Sunshine, but more when she's the grump. Again, what I'm reading. Yeah. I love Friends to Lovers. I love the microtrope of the perfect gift. Like, I'm assuming, or hopefully you've seen while you were sleeping, when Jack gives her the snow globe of Florence. I'm like, just the little things that show he knows exactly what she likes, or vice versa. It's just like those small, very intimate details. Love that. So those are my favorite. Anywhere I can find those, I'm for it.
That's funny. I was actually looking at flowers my husband gave me for Valentine's Day, and then my mind went to the breakup, where she's like, why don't you buy me flowers? And he's like, you said you don't want flowers. And she's like, every girl wants flowers, Gary. So that's like, yeah, like there are some guys that get it, and there are some guys that don't,
That's a tough one.
Yeah. It's interesting.
What are your favorite tropes, Dawn?
I love an enemies to lovers. I love friends to lovers. Yeah, I just do. Enemies to lovers, I think, and second chance is my favorite. Are my favorite. Cowboy. I love a cowboy. I mean,
what's not to love about a cowboy?
Yep. I know. about you, Dylan?
I would say the same. My favorite one to write is probably Second Chance, and I have to watch myself because otherwise all my books would be second chance romances. Because I just love. I was actually talking to my kid today about tropes and everything because I was packing up some books, and I just love with Second Chance how you've got the history that's already there, and so I feel like you can just dive really deep into the history and
The
not that you have to
backstory.
do yeah, the backstory, not that you have to do flashbacks or anything like that, but I feel like it just makes the experience so much richer because they do have this shared history and everything. So, I mean, I love writing that, but it's funny because I don't like reading that nearly as much as I like reading like Enemies to Lovers, or I love Grumpy Sunshine. I love I've been doing some Age Gap lately that was kind of fun. In the steamy shorts more. But yeah, and I absolutely love a good cinnamon roll hero.
Yeah.
Although I was writing cinnamon roll heroes, I feel like before people started calling them cinnamon roll heroes, which sounds so much more attractive than calling them beta heroes, because like
Yeah.
a lot of my heroes, people would say, "Oh, he's a beta," and I'm like, "Ugh, I mean, that just makes him sound like
No,
you
he's
know
not as good.
alpha and beta. Beta just
Yeah.
doesn't sound as good." But now that we are reframing the beta to cinnamon roll, and I am all for it because who does not love a cinnamon roll? I mean,
I
seriously.
know. I mean, the
With
very
extra
name,
frosting,
the very words in your brain think
right.
sweet and like delicious.
I mean, I already am salivating right now, and,
Yeah.
I don't even have a hero in
You're
mind.
talking about men.
Well, whatever works.
And
And
baked
cinnamon rolls. I'm also
Food, man.
gluten-free, so I've not had a really good cinnamon roll in a really long
no.
time. But yes. And that was not code. That was legit, like an actual real cinnamon roll. That was not code for anything. So we digress. I did
We
see
do
that there was a
digress.
question. Do we want to
There
do that question
is.
real
Yeah.
quick, and
It's
then we can jump into Cathy's reading?
I'm a little bit scared. I'm going to pop this up there, but I'm just going to say
Oh,
it might cover all of our
I'm not sure
faces.
what's going to happen. We've never had a comment this long
We
that you've
have
popped up
not.
on the screen. All right,
Let's
let's
do
try it.
this. Okay.
Oh, not so
Okay.
bad.
I did have
Although we
one for
covered up our guests.
Cathy. Yeah, I covered up our guests. We'll pop
We
it
can't
down
see
here
them.
when we answer. I just finished role playing. I'm on the Ponto series now, and I also play a game called Elder Scrolls online, and it made me wonder if there was any video games you had in mind when creating the video game Boggy and Otter meet in. Also, just any inspiration you had for role playing in general. I'm going to hide that so we can see our guests.
Yes,
But
so we can see them again.
Hi, Lindsay. I am going to geek out for a minute, so I apologize to anyone who isn't a geek, but I did play Elder Scrolls Online. I play video games when I'm stressed. So for like 2018 was a bad year for me, and I was playing ESO like they were paying me. I mean, like hours straight. It was rough. And I've known people who work at Blizzard, so I've played some Warcraft. I love Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I'm a side quest girl. I'm not like a main quest person. I'm like, they're like, oh, kill things. My son, it drives him insane because I'll be like, look, flowers, like wander through the countryside for like, I'm gonna find all these like side things. And he's like, there's a bad guy. You have to kill the bad guy. I'm like, yeah, I'll get there. So yes, love video games, and you used to be able to have like setups where it was like pen pals or stuff like that, where you didn't really see the other person. And now you've got social media, especially games, where you're interacting, but you really don't know who you're interacting with. So I wanted that setup because I had like this lightning bolt of this very bizarre setup where they meet in a game. And when you're gaming, a lot of the guys are very young. But there is a gamer called Tactical Grandma, and she is one of the most bad, like amazing snipers in the world. She plays Call of Duty, and she is a beast. She's on YouTube. It's amazing. So I wanted that misunderstanding where they were online. She thinks he's 20. he thinks she's 80, and they interact. So when I wrote it, I was like telling my agent, I'm like, they're either gonna hate this. I'm like, they're gonna think I've lost my mind. But I had fun with it, and then they liked it. So, whew. So that was fun.
I love that. I mean, I only understood about 50% myself, but I love it so much because I feel like Lindsay actually was sitting here like, yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, totally. I feel like she was. I don't know if you were, Lindsay, but I feel like you were. And I was like, I love your passion.
Well, when I write about geeky stuff, I try to make sure that it's tempered so that it's understandable for more of
Yeah.
a general audience. It's just enough for you to be like, oh, this is a geeky person. But again, this is someone who's passionate about what they do, because I think that is the connecting factor. Like, whether you're a big fan of like Marvel or Disney or anything, it's not what you like, it's that you like it that much. I love it.
And you can tell just by the passion in your voice when you were talking just now. Honestly, I honestly feel though that for like Lindsay's sake and all of your fans, that maybe you should do an untempered version of something and just like give it to your like reader group and just be like, this is what I want to say, but I have to control myself for publishing purposes. Like, that's my challenge to you. I'm just gonna say that right now.
I should probably join a guild.
We're full of challenges tonight, aren't we?
I know. We're awesome. We're on fire.
All right. Well, speaking of Cathy's book, let's get to it. Are you reading from chapter 1, or do you have a setup for us?
I am actually reading from chapter 15, which is, now that I've told you that they have this misunderstanding, this is when they meet for the first time. So it's, I'll let you judge for yourself.
I'm pretty excited about this after
basically, she thinks he's like 20 years old. They've been interacting. She is 48. In reality, he's 50. She does not know this. She thinks he's broken his foot and he needs help. So she's bringing him soup. Oh. They've been chatting on and off. They get along really well, but she's like, this is horribly inappropriate. There's like a 30-year age gap. I cannot do this. But she's like, no, kid needs soup. I'm just going to bring soup. So that's the setup here.
I'm excited. All right. Yeah. We'll let you get to it and we'll see you after.
Okay. All right. So chapter 15, Sustained Misunderstanding. It took about 45 minutes for Maggie to get the first stuff together and packed, and then to make her way down from the Upper Falls, where she lived, to downtown, such as it was, where Otter apparently lived. She pulled into the driveway of the house. It had white siding and a sort of rock-patterned set of panels on the front, and while the colors looked tired, it was nonetheless nicer than she had expected. The lawn was strewn with some fallen leaves. She frowned. It looked bigger than she thought, too. Maybe a 2-bedroom or even 3. Kind of big for a kid to rent on his own. Little pings of alarm started dancing along her spine. She'd been so intent on helping out a kid in trouble, or at least so she perceived, it had never really occurred to her she was going to a man's house. One she didn't know, not really. Online didn't count. Kit was right. She glanced around. At least he had nearby neighbors. She lived on 15 acres, and her nearest neighbor was nearly a mile away. She'd probably be fine, right? She grimaced, lugging her reusable shopping bag full of pho broth and accoutrement. Now that she thought about it, she probably should have discussed more personal details with Otter. She knew his stance on, say, Star Wars versus Star Trek, and the fact that above all he was a Doctor Who fan, which she felt spoke well of him. She knew that his favorite flavor of ice cream was butter pecan, even though it was a grandma flavor. She knew that he loved graphic novels like Sandman and Bone and The Dreamer, even though they weren't the typical superhero comics that his friends were into. But she didn't know why he lived alone. And she didn't know why his mother wasn't helping him out, despite him having a foot fracture. Her steps slowed as she headed to the front door. I Also don't know if he has, say, a large basement with, say, manacles. Suddenly she had another twinge of pure self-preservation. She knew he was the son of Deb's friend, probably like Kit, although considering how geeky Harrison and Kit were, why weren't they friends with Otter? It had never occurred to her to ask. Maybe he was a little older than 20, she realized. Yes, he just started community college, but maybe he had been doing something else beforehand, like a gap year. Or he might have been working. Kids around here did that, like Harrison himself. Maybe he'd gone to another high school. She bit her lip, then frowned as she saw a note on the door. In shower, just let yourself in, Otter. She felt conflicted, a little nervous. Okay, naked guy somewhere in the house, no big deal. Oh, who was she kidding? If she was any more stressed, she'd implode. Setting her shoulders and gritting her teeth, she grabbed the doorknob and opened the door. It was nice, nicer than she expected, honestly. The door opened up to a set of stairs that led to the upper story. Looking off to her left, she could see the living room and the kitchen beyond. She expected to find the usual plank and milk crate decor that was typical of college students. Mismatched furniture that was cast off from older relatives, maybe some posters. But Otter had a nice couch, a decent TV. The dining room table was a smallish circle with just 2 chairs. She meant to close the door gingerly, but the bag of soup stuff swung, slamming it shut. She could hear the shower upstairs running. Then she heard a loud, deep voice. Boggy, that you? A lot deeper than she'd realized. Of course, he was in the bathroom, so maybe an echo? But Harrison's voice had turned into a frickin' berry white bass when he hit freshman year, even as Kit's had stayed a more low tenor range. Boggy? Otter sounded a little more concerned when she didn't answer. Yup, she croaked, then cleared her throat. No, she knew this guy. And if he tried anything funny, well, she'd do something. It's me. Sorry, I'll be out in a minute, swear, he called out. The shower sounded louder, so she imagined he had opened the door and was now dripping and yelling. The image made her smile, not for any pervy reasons, but because it seemed so Otter. Polite, thoughtful, a bit harmless. Just occurred to me I hadn't showered since I got my air boot, and you were nice enough to make me lunch, and I didn't want to, Stink, she called, then started chuckling when she heard him laugh. Yeah, so things take a little longer with the whole foot thing, but I will be down in a minute. Take your time, she responded, then added, mind if I use a pot? I can microwave this, but it's not as good. Sure, make yourself at home, he called. Then she heard the door close and she headed to the kitchen. Again, cleaner and nicer than she thought it would be, even though it was pretty much a typical built-in-the-70s style kitchen. She riffled through the cabinets and drawers until she found where he kept the pots and pans. Grabbing a lidded pot, she got out the broth and dumped it in. Then she grabbed a big bowl and put the rice noodles in. It would take half an hour soaking, she realized. Maybe she should have just gotten him a sandwich. She realized she might be really, really foolish here. She pulled out her phone, then took a deep breath. Something wasn't quite right, and she wasn't sure what. But after all these years, she knew better than to ignore it. She quickly typed a message to Rosita. Hey, I know we're talking tonight, 6 o'clock. On the off chance you don't hear from me, I went to this address. I'll let you know if I'm going to be late, though. She sent the address, then put the phone back in her pocket. Still, she should have expected it when Rosita instantly texted her back. Can't talk in a meeting, but are you on a date? Because if you are, you're darn right you're calling me. Wait, why are you at his house? Whose house is this? Maggie. Long story, and that house of kid I told you about a while ago. Otter? Rosita. One of your video game friends? Maggie. I'm sure it's fine. Just occurred to me that Dexter was a kid once, and I wanted to cover my bases. There was a pause, then a quick ping. Rosita. Get the F out of there right now. Rosita. No, seriously, I am just being weird. I will be fine. I will call tonight. I promise. Just chill out. Before she could read Rosita's next text, she heard Otter's voice. I am so sorry, he called. Everything takes twice as long as I think it's gonna at this point. And the boot's supposed to help and be better than crutches, but it's like, ugh. She couldn't help it. He sounded like he did when he texted, other than the deep voice part. Gently self-deprecating, mild-mannered, even when irritated. It's fine, she called back, not looking around the kitchen wall. Just getting the soup ready. She felt her chest squeeze a little. She turned the burner on. She'd thought the biggest worry she might might have, was that she was somehow feeling inappropriately toward the closest thing to a local friend she had. Now she had a whole different set of concerns. She swallowed. This was Otter, she told herself. He was limping this way, she could tell. She could hear a sort of shuffling drag thump down the hallway, then a staggered step down the stairs. Her breathing went a little shallow. She glanced out the kitchen window. Looked like he had a big garage. Wait, the house had a carport beside it, so that would be a workshop? Her throat went dry. Oh God, I am terrifying myself. I just wanted to thank you, she heard him just before she saw him. I hope it wasn't too long a... Then he saw her and stopped, staring at her in disbelief. She, on the other hand, felt her eyes widen and her eyebrows hit her hairline. This was no kid. He was about 6'1" easily and built like a linebacker. Auburn hair glinted through with gray. He had a beard that defined his jaw. He spluttered in that deep, rumbling voice, looking completely at a loss. You can't be Boggy? She, on the other hand, suddenly had enough adrenaline in her system to wrestle a bear. Without thinking, she yanked open the nearby drawer, grabbing the cast iron skillet she'd seen when pot hunting. Who the F are you? She demanded, brandishing the pan with both hands. He blinked. Then he laughed. Yep, he said with a deep, satisfied sound. You're Boggy, all right.
Does she hit him over the head? That's all I'm gonna ask.
Like, threatening him, and he's in the doorway. And the funny thing is, it was really hard to find a passage that didn't have a lot of swearing, because that's like one of her signatures. She just cusses a lot, which is why he thinks she's just this very cantankerous, like octogenarian.
Mm-hmm.
But she has all this attitude, and he's very gentle. So he kind of smooths out her rough edges, and she gives him like some fire.
Loved it. That was really fun. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing.
I found myself smiling.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I know somebody very much like him that I'm always like, who can I hook him up with? So we need to find this girl in real life, because I actually have her hero for her. Anyways, yeah, so we did have one question come through. One question, and I'm actually going to put this comment up there just so you know, Cathy, okay? Just so you're aware. They want untempered.
All right.
Your readers want it. So
at least one of them.
At least one of them, yes.
Yep.
And that was, I'm gonna say, okay, Dylan, I'm gonna tell me what her name is. I'm gonna get it.
Eileen? Or Eileen? Eileen. I would think.
Please let us get this right, Eileen. I hope it's right. So
yes,
I feel bad. It looks like 2 L's, though it could be StreamYard. So
Eileen, yes,
she said Eileen. Okay, yay! Thank you, Dylan. Okay, wait, that was me.
I don't know what you're doing, Dawn. Okay, there we go.
I'm sorry,
Settle down.
Claudia.
Oh,
I just trigger happy tonight.
you're just walking all over. Hi, Linda.
All over the place.
Does Claudia have any other books in the works?
Well, I have the ones that are the romantic suspense ones that are just coming out, and I'm working on 2 other romantic suspense. And then I am thinking that today, when I brought this book out and to read it for you tonight, I started reading it and I'm like, oh, I missed that world. So I'm thinking that I'm going to start on the next one in that world, because I know who it is, and it's going to have a winery in it, so that will be nice.
Yeah. We love wine here at Romance.
I really did. I'm like, oh, I want to go back to the world there. I want to go back there.
Isn't that a fun feeling, though?
Yeah.
When you pick up a book that you've you wrote a while ago, and you actually, I don't know. I mean, I can just read, a couple sentences, and it's like you're immediately like right back in it again, and you feel it, and I love that.
Yes. So that may be the next one that I start later this year. Well, it will be.
Hey,
Right.
Thanks for
I'm
asking.
gonna, I'm gonna ask though. You said you know who it is, but are you willing to tell your readers?
Well, if you read the series, you will have met him already.
Him?
And
Okay.
and he looks very dapper in his law enforcement uniform.
Okay.
Yes. So if you have read the series, you'll know it's going to be him. And his name is Wheat.
Oh,
But
cute name.
yeah, and so this will be his story, and I know what she does, but I don't know her name yet. Sometimes that
Ooh.
the character comes and I don't know who they are.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten like mostly through a book and then been like, okay, that's not her name. And then I had to like find, replace,
Yes.
and then it misses the ones that you misspelled. And then and then your
Yes.
editor catches it later and you're like, they're like, who is this? You're like, sorry, that's her.
Quick question on that note: how do you come up with character names? Because I always love to hear how other authors come up with the names for their characters.
Well, if it's somebody that's already in the story, it's easy.
Mhm.
You're just taking that one on over. But otherwise, I go to how old they're supposed to be, and then I pull up the birth names from that year, and then I scroll through until I find a name that's going to work well. I feel it. And
Mhm.
sometimes
Yeah.
it takes a lot of searching. You know that. It's
Mhm.
if when you say their names together, it doesn't have chemistry even there.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I'm gonna
Yep.
say, Claudia, you and me are soul sisters in that aspect. I do the exact same thing.
Yes.
Exactly that.
How
What
about
about
you,
you,
Cathy?
Cathy? Yeah.
Probably about the same. Especially now that I'm able to write older characters, it's like there are different names that are popular now than
Mhm.
there would be for like 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. So there's that. I'd have to be careful. Like, I really need someone to pull together a story Bible so I don't like
Ooh.
use names, because I'm like, I love the name like Josh, and it's like they can't all be Josh, Cass. Like, so there's that.
Yeah.
I wrote
I
an
Have
like
you?
entire story once, and when I got done, I was like, it was all the way to the end when I figured out that the man's name was not right. And
Mhm.
then I had to go search because I just knew it wasn't right. And
Mhm.
sometimes when you're talking and you're telling people about the story, all of a sudden that first name will creep in and you're like, oh no, it's not that one, it's this. So
I was just looking up at my bookshelf because I have like baby name books that I don't know if you
Mhm.
guys do that at all, but I love it when I can find a name that has some sort of meaning to it that, goes along with the story also. I mean,
mhm.
it's sometimes I just like a name and it just fits, but yeah, sometimes I'll kind of peruse through my baby name books and see if there's, something that sounds good. Or I go to nameberry.com all the time. That's a good
Yeah.
one because they'll tell you like, I don't know, 20 names for, like your little cowboy, or, 20 names for a rock star baby, or I mean they have some really interesting lists, and so yeah, I'll look at that too. It's fun.
You talking just now makes me wonder if like the FBI looks at like gets onto our feeds and stuff, right? And they're like, okay, she was researching bombs, and then they look at our bookmarks and they're like, oh, she was also researching baby names and like tropes. Okay, she's a writer. Let's just let her go. She's not gonna blow up the world. So yeah.
You gotta hope, because my search history is a mess.
Yes.
I think I think we'd all be arrested
Yeah.
if anybody was monitoring anything, because yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say what I research because I don't want it to be out there and have, my phone pick it up or anything. But yeah, um, I think it's pretty safe to say that we must have all been labeled non-threatening, because
Yeah.
otherwise we probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
I
big fat FBI file. They're just waiting on me.
Uh-huh. I almost want to like make my son. He's like an MP, right? So he's trying to go NCIS right now,
Ooh.
like
Ooh.
SWAT, then NCIS, and then I'm like, when he gets out, he can go like FBI, CIA, whatever, and then I'll be like, hey, like, how do you guys look at us? Like, do you guys watch our feeds? Like, what do you see? How do you judge us,
You know what,
authors?
Dawn, that's going to be a long time before you get to ask him that question. I think it might
I
be
don't
faster
know.
if you just called up and said, I'm a
The
writer.
FBI?
Can you monitor me?
Yeah. Dylann. Okay, you're talking about challenges. Dylann, I challenge you to call up the FBI and ask them.
I'm not the one who's curious.
But you can contact
You
them if
can.
you're a writer,
You
and
can. Yes.
they will answer questions for you and,
Yeah.
and things like
I
that.
have heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We
I
did have
have-
one more question, Dawn. Did you see
Yeah,
that
we
one
did.
pop up?
I did. I was saving it for last because it's very specific and awesome. So, like,
It's our friend Eileen again.
yes, Eileen, and we got your name right. I got your name
Yes.
right. Dylann did. I'm sorry,
You
I'm
did.
horrible with names. When can we expect our next geeky romance, Cathy? Do you have one in the works?
I have a romance coming out this summer. It is the least geeky one, but it indulges my other passion, which is foodie.
Ah.
Oh,
So that is comes out late July. It's called Do Me a Favor, and it's about a widowed ghostwriting cookbook. Like, she's a cookbook ghostwriter who is trying to get back in the business. Her husband's been dead for several years. She's inherited a house on an island in the Puget Sound. But she's taking a crap assignment because she's trying to get back in. And they're like, you have to turn this around. And I don't know if you guys watch, but on TikTok, there are these chefs, these dudes that are sexy chefs.
oh, I
You
haven't
don't-
seen Sexy Chefs.
You might, if you have any interest at all in like either cracking up or it's like, I can't even describe it. It's bonkers. It's like guys cooking without shirts and like sort of like leaning in the camera and being like, ooh, like licking whisks and things. And so she gets this assignment and she's just like, oh, I don't think I can do this. But she meets her kind of hot handyman neighbor and he becomes her muse. And it's I write more like dramedy, so it definitely has some serious elements to it, but it is a lot of fun, I think.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It
I
does.
know.
And
I think
Cathy, can I challenge you? I mean, I know this is the last challenge, and I hope that this is the one challenge that actually happens, to post the link to one of those videos on the Romance Happy Hour
Definitely.
page. Because
I was waiting. That one's doable, Dawn. I was waiting for
know.
you to come up
No.
with. I had no
this is
idea what you
totally
were going to say
doable.
there, and I was a little nervous.
If any challenges get accepted tonight, it has to be the posting the sexy chefs on the Romance Happy Hour page, so we can all share in your enjoyment.
They are that research was actually hilarious. But as far as like geeky, I'm writing a similarly, like, if you want untempered, this is going to be as close as it gets, because it is going to be about live action role playing. Yeah, it's just going to be bananas. I hope that they like it, but I'm like, I've gone this far, might as well lean in. So we'll see how it goes.
Love it.
You know, I think when you do lean in though on something that you really enjoy and are passionate about, I mean, I think readers can tell, like if you try to play it safe, and I mean, I'm not talking about, things that probably should not be in a book at all, like that kind of thing. But like when you really do lean into it and write what you're passionate about and things that you're enjoying writing, I mean, I think readers can tell. So I'm sure it sounds like a lot of fun.
It does.
So Yeah, we'll definitely when you have a release date and everything for that, let us know, and we'll pop it up on our page so we can let people know what's coming.
I will.
Until then, accept my challenge. And
Yeah,
Dylann,
I don't know what is with you and challenges tonight, Dawn.
I don't know.
Just so you know, like this is a new thing. This has not happened before. We do not challenge people every single episode.
No, we don't. We
You
don't.
should.
No,
Oh, don't.
I mean,
Don't tell her that. Don't tell her that. She's gonna. Yeah, no. This is not our new thing, Dawn. I'm sorry. This is not our new
No.
thing.
I love it though. This was like a this episode thing, and I love the challenges, and
Yes.
especially the last one. So I have to see that. In the meantime, though, Dylann, we are over time.
We are. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Goes
we
fast.
should probably. It goes fast. It does. It goes fast. We should probably wrap up with the giveaway. We've got a good giveaway up on the Romance Happy Hour Facebook page that Cathy and Claudia both have goodies up for grabs. So if you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you head over there and get entered into that. And I think that's it. We will come back the second Thursday in March, right, Dawn?
Yes, second Thursday.
Yes. That's what I said, right?
Yeah, which is usually like the fourth week, which is why I get confused. Typically,
she's always confused.
always
We've only been
confused.
doing this, I think, 4 years. But she can never remember.
I blame it
so
on
yeah,
my hair color, blonde, natural blonde.
So thank you both for being with us tonight. Just before we head out real quick, where's the best place for readers to find you? Claudia, why don't you tell us first? Where do you spend most of your time?
Where do I spend my time when I'm not writing?
Right. Well, where is it best for people to connect with you? Is it Facebook or Instagram?
The social media is online there. Go to my website, Claudia Shelton Author, and I will put it in the links tomorrow so that you can get that. And and that way then you can see and join and keep up to date. Thank you.
Perfect.
Sounds good. How about you, Cathy?
My Instagram is Cathy Yardley, and I have a Facebook group, Cathy Yardley's Crew. And we tend to just share a lot of silly memes and like bonkers stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So that's the best place to hang out.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, this is fun. We enjoy it. It's always, I think Dawn and I have more fun than anybody when when we get to do romance.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we will be back the second Thursday in March. And until then, happy reading, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.